The battle for the NFC East really depends on this Week 10 matchup. What is going on, guys? What is going on, 27 Squad? Welcome back into another video. Excuse the hair, excuse the, look right now. Just came out of work, tired, but wanted to really make this video. We have a huge matchup against the Philadelphia Eagles this Sunday. As you guys know, the Philadelphia Eagles currently lead the division through Week 9 with a 3-4-1 record, as they tied with the Cincinnati Bengals, as that kind of helps them a little bit, as if they finish with the same win total as any of the NFC East opponents, they automatically get the nod because of the tie. Now, of course, they would want to have won that game against Cincinnati, but that tie still helps them, because whether it's a loss or whether it's a win or a half a win, they still get in. Now, the Giants are sitting at the bottom currently at 2-7. This being because Washington is at 2-6, and the Giants have an extra loss. And also, they are tied with the Dallas Cowboys, but Dallas beat the Giants, so that pretty much puts New York at the very bottom. But with this win, if the Giants were to win this game, and this is why I think this is a huge must-win game for the Giants, as it has huge implications to the rest of the year, and if we can make the playoffs or not. And later we'll discuss, should the Giants even make the playoffs or not. But this is a huge game for the New York Giants, as they can get all the way to second place and be behind the division lead by half a game. Now, they'll have to keep consistent throughout this game. This may be a lengthy video, as we got a lot to talk about today when it comes to the Philadelphia Eagles. So like I said, this has huge implications for the rest of the season. Philadelphia on top right now, 3-4-1. The Giants sitting at 2-7, and we'll go over remaining schedules. We'll go over chances of winning, but right now the Giants really need this game. They are 2-2 in the division right now, and they do not want to go down here against Philly, get swept by Philly, and then possibly get swept by the Cowboys and go 2-4 in the division. Even if you possibly tie up in a record with, Dallas or Washington, say Philly's not part of it with their half win with the tie. Say they're in a tie with maybe Washington or maybe Dallas, and they're in a tie record wise, but the division wins aren't there. It's not going to help at all. The division wins really matter, especially that how tight and close this division really is. It doesn't matter how good or bad the division is. It doesn't matter. It's about how tight and close and contested it is. So of course, you need those division wins. They matter more than ever, as the winner of the division might have a tie record with the majority of the teams in the division. So that being said, this is a huge mark for the Giants. They need to get their third win at least at this point in the season in the division, and have hopes of splitting in the division and not going possibly 2-4 in the division. Let's try to get our third win in the division and secure at least a split, and not go down and have a losing record in the NFC East. Now, there's always the conversation, should the Giants even make a playoff push? I know it's there, I know it's possible, but say we don't get it, we'll miss out on a top pick, and say we finish, instead of finishing like a 2-14, we finish like a 5-11, 6-10, or that's best case scenario, right? Or maybe close to best case scenario. I think a lot of people's best case is 7-9. I think it's a little far-fetched, but say we get like a 5 or 6 wins, and we don't even make it, and then we're out of the lottery for a top pick, as far as a top 5 pick goes. Okay, it will say something crazy happens and the Giants win the division and they make it to the playoffs. Even though they have 5 or 6 wins, they're not going to have a top 20 pick. They have to have 20 and more, being that they made the playoffs. So wherever the Giants land in the playoffs, they'll probably be whoever's in the NFC East is probably not going to win a playoff game. So they'll probably end up at about 20 or 21, 21 or 22, something like that, right? So that being said, should the Giants even make a push for that? make the playoffs as a 6-10, potentially a 6-10 team, and have a top 20 draft pick. Dude, should the Giants even do that? Is that a smart thing to do? Even if you make the playoffs, you're more than likely not going to go far in the playoffs. So why even try? Let's get a high draft pick. But I'll play a little bit of a devil's advocate. Actually, this is not really devil's advocate. I think the Giants should do this. The Giants should make a playoff push. Why? It's going to establish that winning culture that Joe Judge wants to establish, especially with his time in Alabama and his time in New England. He has been used to and accustomed to winning. So he knows what it's like to win. He needs the rest of the guys around him to know what it's like to win. Jason Garrett, Patrick Graham, these guys don't really have too much experience with a winning culture, right? Jason Garrett, within his time with the Cowboys were overwhelmingly mediocre, never really got over the edge. You look at a couple of our veteran players even, Kevin Zeitler, probably in his time with Cincinnati that he made the playoffs, but, they didn't really go far as it is. A bunch of veterans on our team right now that may have some playoff experience, some have none playoff experience, and as you guys know, this is one of the youngest teams in the NFL. You need the young guys and the veterans to know what it's like to win in these games and, try to make a playoff push and hit the ground running next year, building off steam, building off momentum and, developing that and taking that into next season. I don't think people really know the significance of building a winning culture and knowing what it's like to win. And I think this is a very unique situation because not only would you be potentially setting up a winning culture in this season by making the playoffs, not only would they know what it's like to win, but they'll also know what it's like to lose. And you guys got to stick with me on this. Usually, especially if rookies make the NFL, they always know what it's like to win if they're part of really good teams. Let's take Mecole Hardman, for example, former pick last year of the Kansas City Chiefs. They had like a 13-3 record, a 12-4 record in the regular season, and they won the Super Bowl this year, right? So his team was good from start to finish. His team only lost last year about 3 to 4 times, right? So he knows what it's like to win. He's already used to that. But imagine being at rock bottom, right? This team, the New York Giants, being at rock bottom, already having more losses than the Kansas City Chiefs did last year, right? These young guys, these veterans, they know what it's like to be at rock bottom. They know what it's like to lose. They know the frustration. And imagine somehow by the football gods' grace, they make the playoffs, and they know what it's like to make a playoff, to play in a playoff game. Even if they lose that playoff game, they're victorious in making the playoffs. That is going to boost the morale of all the teams and, have a huge switch, right? Just a huge 180 in the team from being one of the worst teams in the NFL to making the playoffs. That is going to boost the team's momentum and have them hitting the ground running next season. I think it's way better than getting a top draft pick. If you look at most of the top teams in the NFL, Kansas City drafts pretty well. I will give them that. But Seattle, they don't draft well. Yes, they got DK Metcalf, but go back in Seattle's drafts, especially their first round picks, they're always busts. All right, and then especially the New England Patriots, where Joe Judge comes from. The New England Patriots never get guys out of their drafts, and if they do, they're late round sleepers. They don't do anything with their draft picks, but yet they win. How is that? Their winning culture. I think developing a winning culture is way more important than a high draft pick. That might be me. That might be an unpopular opinion, but I honestly think the growth and development of this team in winning, getting to the playoffs and getting that boost of morale and, developing the winning culture is going to be better than getting a top 5 draft pick this year and getting a top player than the top player in the second round. None of that matters if you can't win. How many times have the Giants had top picks? Some of them they flunked on, but how many times have they had top picks? They do something with their top picks. Odell Beckham in the past, Eli Apple, Eric Flowers, a bunch of these guys. But we don't develop a winning culture. Saquon Barkley, Daniel Jones. We don't develop a winning culture. None of that matters. Doesn't matter who we pick. All right. Saquon Barkley is a generational running back who's gonna be great. Barring injury, he's gonna be fantastic. One of the best running backs to ever live. But he's not gonna win anything if we don't develop a winning culture. So that's all I have to say about that subject. Now, this is not necessarily a team preview, so I just want to go through how similar these two teams are, the Giants and the Philadelphia Eagles. Let's start off first and foremost by the quarterbacks. I have the stats comparison pulled up here. If you look at their passing stats, they're just identical in almost every single way. Look at their completions, look at their attempts. Daniel Jones has one more attempt than Carson Wentz. They have a similar completion percentage as Daniel Jones edges him a little bit, almost exactly the same in yards, as they're only 5 yards off of each other. Their touchdown to interceptions almost there. The touchdowns obviously 12, and that's a little bit more than 8 for Daniel Jones. The times that they were sacked are identical. Their rushing stats are identical. If you take away that 75-yard run or by Daniel Jones, I mean, that'll be 39 attempts exactly, and just around about 245 yards for Daniel Jones. So that's very identical with Carson Wentz there in his rushing stats. I'm sorry, if you take that 80-yard run, okay, he had an 80-yard run. All right, so I mean, just a lot of things are extremely similar with these two quarterbacks. And if you look at the defenses as well, as I have some defensive stats on my notebook here, the Giants defense are second in takeaways this season, and with 15 takeaways. The Eagles have 10 takeaways. You look at the Giants sacks, 22 sacks, and that's 8th in the NFL. 59 quarterback hits, that's 5th in the NFL. And if you look at the Philadelphia Eagles, they have 28 sacks, 6 more than the Giants, and 66 quarterback hits, another 7 more than the Giants. So the only thing that really differs, a lot for these two teams is the interceptions, right? The interceptions, the Giants have 8 as opposed to the Philadelphia Eagles 3, and one of them was Daniel Jones. So very similar. If you look at their running game right now, right, they're going through their running backs, and they're still kind of successful, as Philly and the Giants are still kind of successful without their star running backs, both of them coming from Penn State in Miles Sanders and Saquon Barkley. And then you look at the defensive side of the ball, the secondary and the front seven. Both the team's strengths are in the front seven, and their weaknesses, I guess, is in the backfield. And just a bunch of similarity. Their offensive lines, both offensive lines are struggling. They're rotating players. It amazes me how similar these two teams are, and they are here fighting for the NFC East. I don't think the Cowboys really got a shot, and I don't think the Washington football team has too much of a shot. So I'm not going to compare the Cowboys' remaining schedule, as I really don't think they're going to do anything without Dak Prescott, Garrett Gilbert, Ben DiNucci, Andy Dalton. It doesn't matter. I don't think the Cowboys may not even win another game this season. So I do want to compare some schedules. We more so know what the Giants schedule looks like. I'll quickly pull it up for you guys so you guys can see. We've got the Eagles remaining on the roster, then we go remaining on the schedule, then we go into the bye, and after the bye we're going to go ahead and face the Bengals. That is a winnable game. Now if you look at the schedule, I'm not going to go through every single game, but you look at the schedule, we've got about 3 more winnable games, as we got the Eagles, Bengals, I guess you could say the Browns. I'll say 4 more winnable games. I don't think we're beating the Cardinals, Ravens, or Seahawks, but that might be wishful thinking. But I think the Giants have 4 more winnable games left in this season. We look at the Philadelphia Eagles. They've got about 1, 2, 3, 4 as well. I think they could possibly beat the Browns as well. The Cardinals, I think they have a chance to beat, being that the Cardinals do struggle with, the more the mediocre teams. Like they struggle against Miami. Miami wound up beating them. So we, of course, the Washington football team, and then the Cowboys, I think, is a winnable game as well. Like I said, I don't think the Cowboys are going to win another game this season. Then we look at the Washington football team's remaining schedule, and they've got about they have a winnable game, very winnable game against the Lions next this week, but I think the Lions will edge them out. You got the Bengals. I don't know. I think Washington's not good enough to beat the Bengals. It's very hard for me to really pick out another team that Washington may beat. I really don't think they're going to be competitive in the rest of their schedule. Maybe against the Panthers and the Eagles, I think are very winnable for them, and the Cowboys game again. Okay, so they have about 3 more winnable games on the roster. I don't think the Bengals are going to beat them. And I don't think Washington's going to beat the Bengals or the 49ers or the Seahawks. So, that being said, they've got about 3 more winnable games, and obviously the Steelers, no. So, the Giants are in prime position. They really need to run the table here if they want to make the playoffs. Obviously, we're not really going to count the Seattle Ravens game, the Seattle versus Seattle and versus Ravens game, because I don't really think we're going to have a shot to win that game at all. But any given Sunday. And that's why it's so imperative for the Giants to win this Sunday. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Leave a like if you guys enjoyed. Subscribe if you guys are new. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Woo!